for employees.
You see, sir, even in this program, if we found, as there is here, exceptional Tennessee waters, and there was degradation involved, then we could hold a public meeting to determine whether or not this discharge would be socially and economically necessary for the development in the community. That comes from the Federal Clean Water Act, the EPA, and the state. So even if there is degradation involved, is it necessary? Is it necessary for the development of the community? So there are issues involved. There are economic issues, jobs, there's water quality, and what we're doing is trying to balance all of those interests. But believe me, your comments will be considered.
Okay, just a couple of I'm curious about what you said y'all did this. Did y'all do fish counts? Is there been a fish quality affected by this thing? Has there been?
After, we'll consider that a question. If you want to come up and see the work we've done afterwards, I'll be happy to go through it.
Let me ask you one other thing. Do y'all ever work with other? You said okay. The other,
agency, yeah.
You ever work with other agencies along that line?
We work with the Corps of Engineers. If there's an issue that they are dealing with, we deal with indirectly with
yes or no is good enough.
Okay.
This is just my idea. Maybe their water discharge is not too bad. Maybe their breathing air is not too bad. Maybe their noise is not too bad. And maybe the eyesore is not too bad. But when you add them all up, it's pretty bad. And so why would you not work, with other agencies to look into such things?
Well,
like that?
Right here. You can take this,
well,
take it, and go.
You ever work with that?
We do, I do. We do work with those folks. We work with the Corps of Engineers. We work with other agencies. The Fish and Wildlife Service, we get involved with them. You can have sites. We've got sites, for example, coal mines that may have 4 different permits. 4 different permits, a federal permit, one from us. You may have the Corps involved. We deal with wetlands, if wetlands is involved. There are a whole host of different kinds of permits. Believe me, you talk about regulation, and if this is done right, if the operator is doing his job, we have inspections, water samples are taken. The operator must sample twice per month. We have inspectors that sample. Our agencies can sample. If there's a problem, we have an array of enforcement tools, a notice of violation, a show cause hearing. We have fines that can be sent out by our commissioner, and that happens considerably. Okay, so whatever.
I think that we're being the messenger.
Listen,
and I'm sorry for that, but I think we're all upset because it started out in a ready mix plant, and I think we feel like we've been bamboozled, and I think that's our feeling, and I'm sorry because I know you're the messenger, but.
Yeah,
and our houses have been shook. I mean, literally one morning, we thought it had been an earthquake. The whole house shook. How do you brought me in tank? I didn't appreciate that.
I would suggest that you take one of these and contact the people that deal with glass.
Jesse, you had an individual over here that requested to speak.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry.
That's all right, I did it at the last minute.
Oh, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Okay, I was really writing because there's so much.
We'll have this speaker, and then we'll be available for a few minutes to answer some of your individual questions.
On fingerprints.
Okay.
And
go ahead and speak up now.
I will. I think these folks are just really hurt and upset. And I think one thing we have to do now is just watch everything we can watch, and we need your help with knowing who to contact about air quality, who to contact about traffic. That's who to contact about the noise. Okay. We've had meetings about people who've had damage on their property, and their insurance companies aren't going to deal with that. So, but I think we just need to be the watch guards now. And I'd like to know, is the permitting annual renewal?
It's the permit is good for 5 years, and they must, if they do any modifications, changes, add a discharge point, add acreage, they have to go through our office. We put it on public notice. They have to post a sign. We go through the same situation and process.
Public notice will be in our paper.
It will be, yes ma'am, it will be in your paper. We're required by law to put it in the local paper here. So if they do a modification, a major modification, and they do that frequently, but otherwise the permit is good for 5 years. If they want to continue operating, they have to submit an application for renewal. We also put that on public notice.
Are you aware whether or not these other issues that have already?
I understand that they do have an air permit.
Okay.
They have an air permit. Now, the noise and traffic would be handled by other agencies in your local community. Do you have zoning in the county? Any kind of zoning?
No, that's my next issue.
Go to your county officials and say, we want zoning, we want it limited to this, that. Many counties are doing. We don't trump local rules.
I know, and that's my comment.
Yes,
There are many people that didn't even know whether or not this was in the city or the county. They have local people trust who they vote for, and they don't necessarily show up to very many meetings.
And the first line of defense is the local community.
Right.
And you can go online to some of EPA's web pages, you can form groups, you can sample water, you can observe. There's no end to it.
Right. But I know how it's risky zoning is to harbor people. But it's the only way to save yourself from situations like this.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, any other public speakers for the record?
One of the things that you haven't gotten done with the regular meeting.
Okay, we're closing the meeting. I think I was asked to, the lady back here, but, pardon? Okay, one last call for speakers. Okay, would you want to come forward?
No, I just want to ask a question.
Okay.
Then close the record.
Okay.
Is this creek being cleaned up? Does it need cleaning up? How much this stuff, powder in the creek, how much is in there? Fish or no?
I don't know. I haven't seen it. Some of these other folks may know more about that. You mean from the operation itself? Or?
Yeah.
We've never seen a problem.
Our folks have been there. We have an inspector. She writes inspection reports, and
How much is going in the river?
Pardon?
How much is going in the river?
Well, let me throw this out, and we're off the record now. This system follows, as I understand it, and Stephen can help out because he is the reviewer. But I understand that this system is designed to minimize discharge activity. And that's exactly what EPA sought when they developed this program in the early 1970s. What they wanted to see in terms of processed water was a recirculating system where you would never discharge. The best way to protect water is just not discharge. But they found out that some of the plants and facilities were older, and therefore they allowed an overflow discharge provided you meet certain limitations. And our limits are 40 milligrams per liter, which based on EPA guidelines is protective of water quality. So what they do, I don't think, as I understand it, there will be very few discharges except in extreme storm events, which is exactly what the treatment system is designed to do. So as far as design, technical design and aspects of this, they have followed the recommendations of our agencies as well as EPA guidelines, which initiated this back in the 70s and 60s.
Y'all go back and check that. You check that after?
Yes, we have inspections from the Cookville office. The young lady here tonight, Ms. Thompson, conducts inspections. We are also available, our technical people from the Knoxville Environmental Field Office. We write the permits from our office. And we're also available. We listen to complaints. If she
I'm saying, you come back and catch the water and say, okay, there's this much in here. There's 100 milligrams.
Our inspector would
we're going
do
to
that.
shut you down.
Yeah. Our inspector would do that. She will conduct inspections. They are required to do so.
If there's a discharge. And many times it's not going to be discharging. But if there's a discharge, when I come out and do the compliance inspection, I would sample the discharge and we run our own sample.
if somebody here calls in a complaint and says, look, we see a river of mud coming off this site, and they call it into Rita, she will come up. If she sees water leaving the site, she can stick a bottle in it and take it to the lab and have it run. All of that is public record. Mr. Wells, if he receives a permit, will be required, if he discharges, to sample that as well through a certified lab, submit that to us. Twice a month, report it to us quarterly. If those reports start showing high solids, Rita will come out here and look into it. That's how we run the permitting program across the state.
How many permits have been issued so far? There's a lot of work done there.
For this site?
This site.
They had a construction general stormwater permit for the construction activity in the beginning. They've got an air permit, I understand. We don't issue those, but I understand they have an air permit. If there are any local rules and regulations that they must meet, then that would be issued as well. I don't know that. There are some facilities that have local rules and regulations. In Memphis, there is a local bonding requirement. There's the NPDES program. There's the mining permit. It goes on and on. But
I know you still didn't.
It wouldn't be that much here.
Anyway, clean this up.
They're operating without permits. That's the point.
Well, if that's the case, then we've dropped the ball to that extent. There are
Absolutely.
many situations that we aren't apprised of until after. That's why if there is a local requirement, you folks are, okay.
As far as it goes, you all know, and somebody brought up, that this site was started as a construction project to create a concrete plant. We, the state environmental department, issued them permit under that. When Rita found out, probably in response to a complaint, that it was going to be mining, or that it had become mining, she notified them, hey, you've got the wrong permit. We did not see water pollution, but we informed him, you need this other permit. Submit an application. He did. This process has been going on for the last year to 14 months, whatever it's been. Had there been ongoing water pollution, we would have dealt with it differently. We had no evidence that any pollution was getting in the East Fork of the Stones River. He submitted the application that we requested of him. What else were we going to ask him to do? Nothing. He was doing it all, and so that's why we never came out with any legal action.
A notice of violation was issued from your office, Rita, from the Cookeville Environmental Field Office, notifying the party that they needed to obtain an individual NPDES permit. That in a site visit, based on your complaint, you saw other activities that were taking place, therefore triggering the individual NPDES permit. So that's where we are now.
Everywhere else that I've seen, you have to have a notice of commencement before you start any excavation.
You do, if it's a general permit on a notice of intent, before a person files a notice of intent, they're supposed to have their stormwater control measures implemented and on the ground. It doesn't always work that way. In the best of all worlds, it would, but we're limited in terms of manpower and funding as well. But we do the best we can.
Mr. Wells, would you answer a question for me?
I'd rather not right now at this time. I'm going to speak in a minute, but
I was being a commissioner. I had a man come up to me. I will not say his name until I have to say his name. But his son worked for Mr. Wells. He said on top where they have their office, they dug a hole, and that's where they put all their used hydraulic oil. That's why I wanted to ask you, have y'all been all over the site? Now, this is the man that worked up there that says that that's what his company did. That they didn't haul the hydraulic off, they put it in the ground. Whether or not it's in barrels or not, I don't